what gifts we're going to buy, what gifts that we're going to, provide for the family, or what gifts that we're going to, extend outside of the family. But one of the areas that affects our community the most is the food that we take during this time. We plan a lot of things, but we really plan on eating a lot during this time. But here's the dilemma, and why this presentation is very important and is important to us. During the time frame from Thanksgiving Day to New Year's Day, the average American gains between 1 and 4 pounds. There are some studies that the CDC have presented over the years that showed people gaining up to 7 to 12 pounds during this 8-week time frame. Now, the problem with that weight gaining is that 80% of the people who gain that 1 to 4 pounds don't lose it the following year. So from an aggregate standpoint, if in 10 years you've gained 1 pound, you've got 10 pounds on your body. That puts your body into a different health perspective. Just think if you gain those 4 pounds every year, a 40-pound difference, boy, puts your body in some real stress. So let's look at this time frame and let's create our plan on how we're going to approach it, from what we can eat, how we can eat, when we should eat. All right. These are some questions that we're going to be able to answer through this presentation today. So let's look at nutrition. Nutrition, it is a fuel. All right. When we talk about nutrition, we want to have an understanding that the things that we take into our body that are called nutrients, it's supplying our body with hopefully the purest amount of energy. All right. So when we talk about nutrition, there must be about understanding the body and its body composition. The body is made up of tissues and organs, correct? Those tissue and organs are made up of cells. Those cells are made up of molecules. Those molecules are made up of atoms. And those atoms are made up of something called subatomic particles. And those subatomic particles simply is energy. So at the root base of who we are, we're energy. So let's take that definition that we're energy and let's apply it to some definitions that are going to coincide with that. So let's look at everything that we take into our body, whether or not it's going to add or reduce the energy that's in our body system. So here's some key definitions that I want us to understand, and I want to use energy in place of some of these definitions. So let's look at nutrition as the first. Nutrition is the process of taking and utilizing food substances. All right. Food that generates energy, supplies material used in the body to develop tissues and to support processes in the body. But let's look at nutrition from this standpoint. Okay. Nutrition is anything that the body takes in. So yeah, we're talking about food today, but even during this time frame, we take in a lot of stress. We take in, a lot of news, a lot of things that the body is receiving. Let's make sure that the things that we're taking in are going to be so supportive to the system that we call a nutritious body. Now, nourishment has to come from that energy or that nutrition that we take in. What does it mean to nourish? It is to sustain with food or nutrient supply which is necessary for life, all right, health and growth. So it strengthens and builds the body and is promoting the processes in the body. What all this simply means is that everything that we take in from an energetic standpoint, we want to make sure that it is adding. Remember the definition of energy and what it is. It's from our body standpoint is that we're subatomic particles, right? But energy cannot be destroyed. It can only get transformed into certain things or into different things. So understanding that energy itself can't be dissipated, no matter what we take in, it's bringing energy, but whether or not we can use it and it's used to nourish our body is the question. So let's talk about some of the fundamentals of what that means. Let's look at the calorie. Let's look at calorie as a unit of energy. Let's not look at it as just food. Let's look at it as us taking in these units of energy. There's a scientific definition of calorie that deals with the body and its temperature and heat and what it uses to burn. I don't even want you to even take in that information. What I want you to understand is that everything that you take in from a nutritional standpoint, food standpoint, has power in it, hopefully positive energy in it. Now, why 3,500 calories is important to understand is because during this time frame, we talked about us gaining 1 to 4 pounds. That means our body was in excess of 3,500 to possibly 14,000 calories. Okay. That means that in excess, that means we did not burn those calories. This is in excess. And what does that mean? Okay. So and I give you a parameter. Not everybody is biochemically the same. So the range of what a pound equates in a person is between 2,800 to sometimes 3,700 units of energy in the body system. But why this is important to understand is as we approach this time frame of the year where we're eating, we need to know that what we're eating is, yeah, it is energy, but is it excess energy? Is it energy that our body eventually is going to have to store? Or are we going to be able to use that energy and have that energy gain? So what I want to talk about real simply is now some things that I want us just to understand as we move forward. So these are called micronutrients, and that's the simple things, the vitamins, the minerals, the water. These are things that come from the earth, basically. And, from vitamins, we're talking about the A, B, C, the D, K, all of these different vitamins that we take in on a day-to-day basis. Our body actually can produce our vitamins, our minerals, all right? But because our nutrition habits hinder the production of some of these things, we need to find a good, healthy multivitamin and make sure that we're taking in the proper minerals to enhance what the body can already produce. Water is a very, very important component of what our body's going to do as far as processing and creating the metabolic burn of all the calories we take in. So if you don't take in enough water, the body doesn't have enough oxygen to meet the energy of the food to then turn it into more energy. So drinking water we'll go into that a little bit deeper at the end, but drinking water is a mandatory component of micronutrients. Now let's move into the macronutrients, really the ones that we're here to talk about today. Now, the macronutrients are this is where we get the majority of our nutrition from. That's the carbohydrates, that's the fat and the proteins, okay? Now, the carbohydrate, I want you to look at the carbohydrate from this perspective. You got simple carbs and you got complex carbs. Simple carbs are going to be those high carbohydrated foods that we like to eat, those processed sugars, okay? That's going to give an energy boost, initial energy boost, and then we're going to spike. So it's going to be a short-lived energy that's our body's going to be able to process. The majority of that energy is going to get stored. Now, complex carbs, that's what we want to take into. This is the types of foods that's going to stay in our bloodstreams a little bit longer, give us more of a sustained energy. So our body can now process it properly without us going into these different spikes. It's going to help our blood sugar levels, which creates not only good health, but it helps us to stay energized, help us to continue to move through our day. And know this, the carbohydrate is the first of the macronutrients that the body uses when it comes to performance. It's where it's going to find its first amount of energy. So when you go out walking in the morning, that's what the body's going to look for first, the carbohydrates. Our fats. Now, fats, they're a lot of people run from when you hear the term fat. You're like, okay, fats, should I be eating that? Well, there are healthy fats, okay? And then there's some fats that we need to move away from, okay? So the healthy fats, let's talk about the four types. So we have saturated, unsaturated, hydrogenated, and trans fats, okay, and fatty acids. The good fats that we want to take in during this time frame are the nuts, the vegetable oils, the seeds, the avocados. The reason why these are good fats, because the body's going to be able to digest and process that energy with much more ease. Now, if you're looking at trying to maintain weight or drop a few pounds during this time frame, this is the type of fats that you got to take in, because guess what? The body, if it knows it's going to get enough fats in its nutrition, it'll be willing to let go and use fat as the secondary source of energy. So we use carbohydrates, then we start using the fats. Now, protein. Now, here's the thing that a lot of times we bump heads with most folks, because protein, we're meat eaters. People want to be, think that they can eat all kind of meats during this time, and it usually causes most of the issues. Now protein is the third form of macronutrient, but it's the form that we eat the most. So we have to find a balance in this. Now, the first thing I want to say about protein, and it's not listed as good or not so good on our list. This is information I want to give to you to notate for yourself. The more meat protein that we take in from animals, the more mucus we create in our bodies. If we create mucus in our bodies, now we're creating a more acidic body, a body that doesn't burn the excess energy. And when the body can't burn that excess energy, it now stores itself. And here's the problem with that mucus and that stored energy. We start to gain weight, but we also become susceptible to things, the bacteria, to disease. So minimizing the amount of meat protein, especially the beef and the pork, is mandatory. But eventually we want to pull away where even the turkey and the lean chicken and fish, we're eating a minimal amount of that, because it's still protein and it still can have some of the same effects as eating other proteins. So how do we get protein? We get protein from eating more fruits and vegetables. Well, if you noticed, we eat, the cow, we eat a steak and say, well, this is a good form of protein. Well, that cow ate the grass. The grass gave the cow the energy to work with its stomach acid to produce what is called the omega fats, which is the protein that actually builds the muscles. Same happens within the human system. We can develop and strengthen our bodies and increase the protein, the muscle in the body, by eating more fruits and vegetables, because they work with the enzymes in our stomach to then produce the omegas and the other things that we need to produce healthy muscles. So look at protein. I know we love eating it during this time, but let's look at being moderate in how we approach the eating of the protein. Now, here's why this is the part of the presentation I really love, is because this is what I really want you to take in. And if you got questions, these are my top 10 tips in regards. If you want to get your nutrition straight, not only during this time of the year, but at all times, this is, I believe, are 10 of the most important things that we can do, that we can take ownership of, that supplies this beautiful, body that's unlimited, all right, in its potential, and to enhance and take the energy that we are and produce more energy. So the first one is to recognize that nutrition, it's personal. What that simply means is that everyone biochemically and biomechanically is different. Yeah, the things I'm saying to you are, it sounds like they're blanket statements, but over time, you want to take those specific notes that you have in regards to yourself and know what works and what doesn't work for you, because there are some people who can take a steak and digest it, and you know, it can benefit them, or it works well with their system. Then there are some folks who can eat that same steak, and the steak's remnants are in their digestional tract for 30 days later. You have to pay attention to what works for you, but you got to take full ownership for you, meaning full ownership means you are not, because somebody's made it, doesn't mean you got to eat it. Okay? You got to know what it takes for you on a day-to-day basis, especially during this time of the year. Just because they made chitlins don't mean you eat the chitlins. All right? Number two, you know, when it comes to health and wellness, you know, you must incorporate, you know, exercise. I mean, we know that how important exercise and nutrition and mindset is in regards to health. All of those things work together. We talk about it all the time with the Soul Steppers, optimal health. Optimal health is us taking ownership. Once again, our number one tip, full ownership to how we think, what we do, what we believe, and how we feel. We put energy into answering those questions on a day-to-day. It's going to help us assess what we are feeling in the moment. All right. We know what we need to do through our beliefs. We do the work through our exercise and our nutrition. All right. And that increases the belief in our whole body system that we can now move forward in a more healthier mindset. That's on you. Rule number 3, you cannot out-train bad nutrition. Look, family, you know, as a trainer during this time frame, I do increase the intensity of the workouts that I give to my clients, because it does help offset some of the increased calorie work. But I know, and I tell them, you can't out-train it, meaning you can't over time burn enough calories just through exercise to offset the amount of calories you take in if they're not good energy, quality energy calories. You can't. So remember, we're adding to the energy of who we are. So exercise does help burn some of that stored energy, but it mainly first is going to burn the energy that we took in from our meals. Then it gets to a point where what's in the stomach has been used as energy. Remember, those carbohydrates are burned first, then the fats, then your proteins, right? That usually takes, if you're nonstop exercising at a moderate pace, that's going to start ending around the 35th to the 40th minute. Now, you have a window of about 40, well, I don't want to give you that much. I would say about 20 minutes that follows that goes into sheer fat burn. Now, that's an important part of training, is getting to that place where you get into the fat burn. But you can't get there if you're eating an excess amount of calories through things that can't get processed. That means that's the sugars, the salts, the breads, the pastas, the potatoes. So you can't out-train it. Number 4, drink more water, all right? And try not to drink your calories. During this time of the year, we got all of the, what is it called? The lattes and the pumpkin spices and all the drinks during this time. And then we're not even talking about the alcohol, and the eggnog with the alcohol in it. And then, my aunts used to make this sweet tea that was, you drink it, it was so good, but boy, you got to check your blood sugar afterward because it's just so full of, you have so many things that we don't think is adding a caloric or an energy, all right, to our body system. Remember, everything that we take in from a system nutrient standpoint, it's energy. But if the body is taking in too much excess calories or too much excess energy from sugar, the body is going to do what? It's going to store it. and it starts storing it in parts of our body that ultimately, if we don't burn it, creates imbalances. And those imbalances turn into disease or not feeling well or weight gain. That's how that 1 to 4 pounds during this time frame can change your health. We want to stay away from that. So be mindful of drinking more water. And one of the tips that I like to use and give to you is that during this holiday season, make sure that you drink at least 12 ounces of water an hour before your meal. And then don't drink anything during your meal. Then drink your water an hour following the meal. Guess what happens when you do that? Well, first of all, drinking the water beforehand is going to make you feel a little bit fuller. So that's going to hopefully limit the amount of energy or calories you take in the meal. Now, the stomach can work on just digesting the meal itself. Once it's digested the meal itself, it's picked out what it's going to use and what it's not going to use. Now, the water you take in helps the body now eliminate the things that it doesn't need. So drinking your water an hour before, an hour after can help you maintain better digestion of the energy that you're taking in. So it's important. So if you're drinking high calorie foods during the same time in which you're eating meals, now you're causing the system, your body system, to get confused on what to digest first. So what does the body do again? It says, take all of that energy we brought in and just store it. Number 5? Mm-hmm. Look, y'all, don't fear the food. I know, we think that if I eat a little piece of cake, look, mindset is so important in regards to your nutrition. Everything has a frequency, that vibrational energy. So if you think about eating, if you think about food and it's what it can hurt you with, it's going to hurt you. So that's mindset. So don't fear it. Just have a plan on how you're going to manage it. So you can feel as though you're not missing out, okay, but you're not overdoing it where it affects your body in the long term. So all of these tips are intertwined in the fact that you have what? Control of your life and what you want to do and what your plan is. So don't fear it. Let's move with a plan. Number 6, eat smaller meals and eat more frequently, all right? Now, here's eating smaller meals is important for this reason. When you eat an item, so say for instance, you eat a sandwich. The reason why sandwiches are so difficult for the body to digest is because now you have the bread, you have the meat, you have the mayo, the mustard, pickles, whatever you have on there. The body has to develop an acid to digest it, each one of those things. So the more things you eat at one time, it confuses the stomach on what acid to produce to digest it, so it can pull the energy out of it to be produced into more energy. So eating smaller meals, eating one item at a time, can benefit you greatly for that reason. That means the body's going to be able to recognize what that item is. It's not going to be this exorbitant amount of food. So it's going to be able to not only recognize it, produce the acid, and then digest it. That's going to help you have more energy, and you're not going to store as much energy. So that means the body's going to process it and, eliminate what it doesn't. Now, remember, your fist, I have you do this all the time. Your fist, that's the size of your stomach. So if you're sitting down doing Thanksgiving, Antoine, we talked about it. Like, you want to eat 5, who can eat the most plates of food, and you got 8 fists in your plate at one time. You're eating enough food for 8 people at one time because of your stomach size. So be mindful of that. That's why the smaller meals more often works better. Living foods, family. Number 7, here's the meat and potatoes of this, all right? This is the stuff that you really want to focus on. Living foods. What are living foods? Living foods are the fruits and vegetables, things that have living enzymes in it. those enzymes connect with that acid that's in your stomach, and it connects perfectly. It knows exactly what to do. Because fruits have a lot of fiber in it, fruits can be used to not only supply the body with carbohydrate energy, it also gives the body access to more water. All right. So that means the body is hydrating itself even better when you take in more fruit. The other thing is that, okay, this fruit is filled with water, all right, but it's filled with nutrients. Those nutrients are more compatible to the cells in our body system. That means there's energy. So this is living energy combined with more living energy produces more energy. So not only will those fruits help you hydrate, it helps you also get rid of the things that can create harm in your body. All right, because it's fibrous. You're going to eliminate the things. It's going to be able to recognize and say, let's get rid of this, and it goes. It means you go to the bathroom a little bit more and need fruit. Now, vegetables do the exact same thing, but the opposite. The nutrients that they take in from vegetables now adds energy to your body where it does what? Helps the cells repair themselves. So here, fruits helps you detox it, pull the toxins out. Vegetables come in, help restore. So eating fruits and vegetables during this time is very important to give the body's digestional system the strength to do the things it needs to do. One, detox it, but then also repair any damage that's being done. Number 8. Should I even say this? Do I need to read this out loud? Minimize and eating beef and pork? I mean, come on. I mean, beef and pork are two of the things that can do so much damage to our bodies for this reason. Very, very difficult to digest. Family, I want you to understand, if you don't understand anything, digesting food is one of the most rigorous things your body will do. Digesting food. So when you give it a food that's really not compatible to what our body intake should be, it has to store it. It has to store it, and it has to take time for whatever that steak or beef, whatever pork you ate, to sit in the stomach acid enough to start getting broken down. If you eat a steak today, most people 30 days from now will still have remnants of that same steak. What does that mean? It means that now the energy that you took in couldn't get processed. So it got stored, but this time it got stored in your stomach. When it gets stored in your stomach and it's not being eliminated, it moves back up your digestional tract. When it moves back up your digestional tract, now those impurities that should have been eliminated are now touching organs. Okay, it's creating mucus, it's creating inflammation. And those things are the prerequisites to a lot of disease and ailments for us. So I'm not saying, I'm not going to tell you any definitive no, but let's do it in moderation and work on eliminating it. Okay. Number 9. That's what we just talked about, replacing the old habits with new habits. But those new habits need to be in alignment with where you want to go from a health and wellness standpoint. Look, your food is a real fundamental base of how you're going to live your life, the energy you take in. So if you're taking in energies that's helping the body repair itself, give itself energy, all right, and that's what you want, you need to eat in accordance to where you want to go. So create a plan for yourself that's in alignment with the highest image of yourself from a nutritional standpoint, and then do the work to get there. Number 10, make this change gradually. I had a conversation with some of my clients, my personal clients, just yesterday. You hear people come on and social media, and they're like, you need to fast or you need to do all these things. And it's like this drastic change. Look, family, if you make small, gradual changes, but stick to them, the results will be outstanding. I guarantee you. One of the hardest things to do is to go walk into your kitchen and take all the bad stuff out and then say, I'm going to eat clean from now on. 99% of the time, that doesn't work. So what you do is say, for this month, I'm just going to work on drinking more water, or I'm going to work on eliminating processed foods. That simple change will produce a tremendous result, because your body, you're going to start feeling, you're going to feel it, and it's going to feel good. So be gradual in this, but whatever you make the change would be, it has to be based on the fundamental concept that it's a lifestyle change. So you're not just doing it to lose weight, to wear the bikini on your vacation. This is for you and for the rest of your life. All right. So it's a lifestyle change. Here, my bonus point was just, to minimize the refined sugars and sodium. I'm gonna add two bonus tips. Of course, pull away from packaged food. When you shop in the grocery store, if you're buying the majority of food off the shelves, those foods are high in preservatives, high in sodium, high in sugar, high in chemicals, things that the body won't recognize, all right, as pure energy. It's going to get stored and it can turn into something negative, all right? So pull away from processed sugars, all right, processed food. The other tip I want you to do, I have a rule, a day and a half rule. So after the Thanksgiving meal, Thursday, 6 p.m. All right, you eat your meal. You have the following day to eat leftovers. So you have that half day of Thanksgiving, the following day of Thanksgiving day, and then you got to get back on point. Don't keep eating those foods, okay? Because if you do, you'll start getting in tune with that and you can fall off the track drastically. So those are my 10 tips. What I'd like to do from this point, Antoine, if people got questions, I would like to, offer, answer questions. Those are some of the fundamentals.
Perfect. Yeah, because there are some questions in the chat that people have dropped in. So I kind of wrote them down so we can try to get to as many as we can. There's about close to 10 questions in there.
All right, let's go.
So let's jump in. First one is around probiotic foods. And so someone was saying that they were curious about them, like kombucha and things like that. So kind of wanted to get your opinion on probiotic foods.
Well, definitely. Probiotics are desperately needed for our body system. Just, I don't know if you want to talk to how important it is, how, one of the things that happens with a probiotic. So probiotic, there's good and bad bacteria. But the bacteria that we want to make sure that's in our belly are those bacteria that can help the body fight off anything that's foreign that can damage the body system. So probiotics, like what are you?
The kombucha, kimchi. Kimchi is really good for fermented foods.
Or they suggest yogurt. But
prebiotic and probiotics.
Yeah, so you have to be mindful. Although I think the kimchi, I think that those are better, because what those fermented foods do, they work really cohesively with acids in our stomach. All right. Once again, this is about the body being able to recognize something and then use it to help enhance the process. That's the nourishment that we talked about earlier. So probiotics are definitely needed. Make sure that when you do the probiotics, that you do them for a time frame and then take a break from them. All right, because if you're doing them all the time, sometimes the body becomes accustomed to it and it starts to lose its effect. So I would say 10 days on, 10 days off.
Perfect. And is there a difference? So there are natural probiotics, like the foods that you all talked about and fermented. Is there a difference between that and maybe a supplement, probiotic supplement?
Well, like with all supplements, and you hear me,
Quality.
yeah. So the thing why I don't really mention supplements a lot with folks, because like there are some great supplements. I want you to know that. But the quality of the supplement is also, you gotta know how, well this supplement works for you. But because of shelf life, make sure you're reading labels, because there are some things on the shelf that can enhance and help you. But I don't recommend it for that particular reason, because of shelf life, because of the quality. You look at a lot of products that they claim to be a probiotic or prebiotic, and the thing that's in it that's supposed to, help you do it is at a minimal. It's at a lower percentage, where in which if you just ate the food, you would be getting it, throughout the whole meal. I hope that answered. Did I?
Yeah, that's good. Someone also had, I'm going to jump around to the questions, intermittent fasting.
Yes.
I wanted to get you guys' take on that as well.
Well, I have grown into it being a really good way for us to manage the time in which the digestional system gets an opportunity to rest. So you see, they have variations. So you can do a 12 hours where in which you eat your meals. And what I want, just to give you a brief, like intermittent fasting is really based on something called a circadian rhythm. Every human being has it. Eating when the sun's at its peak. Our ancestors, practice this. The circadian rhythm is individual, meaning when you wake up in the morning, you have 12 hours really to supply your body with nutrition. Intermittent fasting is truly something that can benefit you, but you need someone who knows what they're doing to help you through it. So here's a fundamental way to approach it. Do 12 on, 12 off. So 12 hours in which you eat, all right, and 12 hours in which you don't do any chewing. Okay, that's kind of like what the Soul Steppers are doing, having everybody shut down at 7 p.m. and don't eat anything till 7 a.m. in the morning. Then there are some advanced. So you're going to do, where you can do 16 hours. Some people do a full day, 24 hours of just nothing but water. But all of those have to be managed. Here's the point that I'm trying to make, is that you have to give your body a chance to sit and rest, to digest food. When you eat food, your body is going through the most traumatic of processes in digesting food. The more time you give it to rest from that, it gives the body an opportunity to reboot itself from a molecular standpoint. That means the cells, the atoms all become energized by not having to be used to process food, but just to be restored themselves. So I do recommend it, but it has to be managed. And for you to do it properly and to do it consistently, it's going to take you over a year for your body to actually adjust to it.
Thank you for that, Coach. And two things I want to pull out that you mentioned during the presentation and just now, consistency, right? So knowing what to do, getting that, so not just jumping into something for the fad of it,
Right.
getting to know what it all means, because it's easy to kind of jump from this diet to this, to this, to that, and the next thing you know, you're frustrated because nothing is happening the way you want it to. And so we got to be consistent with something in order to see the results.
That's exactly
and then
right.
circadian rhythms. I know my wife disdains this time of the year because, we're jumping between time, 1 hour forward, 1 hour back, and that just messes stuff up for a couple of weeks. And so, but that is another important. I don't appreciate it getting dark earlier, but I got to do what I got to do for the system.
But Antoine, one of the things that our ancestors did, that they wouldn't eat when the sun was at its height. So a lot of times, so when you say, for instance, you shut down eating at 7 p.m. tonight, then the next meal would be when the sun is at its height. So that's sometimes noon. So we're talking almost 16 hours of no eating. All right. Now that's how our ancestors did, because we burned so much calories and we're in tune with a lot more things, that worked. I believe that people jump to that and create issues. Start simple by going 12 and 12.
Good, good. So another interesting question, and I don't think I've ever heard this before, but someone asked, should we eat fruits and vegetables at the same time? They've heard somebody say or said somewhere that they shouldn't be eaten at the same time.
Yeah, you know what? I have a chart of food combining. There are certain foods and fruits. You can see it here if you want to take a screenshot of that. Like you're right. There are certain fruits and vegetables that you can't eat together. Say, for instance, I'll give you an example, melons. So watermelon. Watermelon should be eaten by itself. And just like I asked you to drink, water an hour before your meal and an hour after. Well, with watermelon, don't eat anything 30 minutes, 45 minutes before, and don't eat anything 30, 45 minutes afterwards.
Another melon.
Or another melon. You can eat another melon with it.
Cantaloupe.
But no other foods or fruits with that, because if you do, the body turns that into pure sugar. And where we thought, here's this food that's so healthy for us, it's full with all of this, all these nutrients, it gets triggered by other foods to now have this sit and wait, and now it turns into just pure glucose. And that changes the glycogen in the blood, and that can cause issue. But if you look at this food combining chart, if you want to take a quick screenshot of that, it tells you which combinations work well together, which don't. And this is a great format to use when you're cooking your meals on what foods that work better together for digestion.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Coach. For those who might be trying to take a screenshot, if you're on a mobile device, if you're on an iPhone, I think you hit that little button on it. You know what? I'm not even going to, because there's so many different devices and so many different keys and stuff. I might be telling you the wrong thing. But this will be recorded and shared in the Soul Steppers Facebook group and on the AARP California YouTube page. So if you need to grab it later on, you can definitely do it then. Another question: are there healthy alternatives to butter? Somebody asked, thinking that they're getting ready for that those meals and the preparation. But are there any all healthy alternatives to butter? Because they mentioned something about margarine and not caring too much for margarine.
Yeah, I think there's two, there's a side for everything. The first answer is all things in moderation, right? So if you love butter, you want to put some butter on the cornbread or a piece of bread, or personally, this is a personal statement. I mean, honestly, I love bread and butter. Sue me. But I think that there's something to be said for just a nice, clean, no BTS, RSGs added to your butter, a clean organic butter, to use it in moderation. For alternatives, I mean, and honestly, I say that, and then on the other side of my face, I say that we use both. We have typically unsalted butters that I use for baking, and then we also use man, I'm never gonna think of the name of the butter that we use, but it's an oil, an olive oil based, non-soy based product. And man, I'm
sorry, I can't come up with it either.
But I'll click it real quick.
Here's what I'm gonna say in regards to butter.
But in both, either or moderation.
But then also understand that like remember the fats we talked about earlier. If it's done in moderation, the body will process it much better. The key with butter is that you have to look at all the other ingredients that's involved in the processing of it. Okay.
It's all processed.
It's processed. So we want to pull away from processed food. Like even the butter that's an alternative that we use, they have a lot of them on the shelf, but they have soy. You want to pull away from all soy products, because soy products, just in its general sense, 99% of soy products are genetically modified. So if it has soy in it, that means the product that you're eating is genetically modified.
More than likely.
More than likely. So making sure that you are, pulling products that have the minimal amount of product or chemicals in it is probably the best way to phrase the use of butter.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because someone mentioned G butter, GHEE,
Yeah.
as an alternative.
Ghee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, ghee,
Ghee.
G-H.
Okay.
Yeah. That, I mean, and that really is just it's the butter that's been melted down and the milks and the solids have been taken out of it. So it's just the clear, pure oil of the butter. Again, at the end of the day, I think we're talking about moderation and your own personal health issues. I mean, if there's health issues that say you shouldn't take these in, then you probably shouldn't be using them. Don't want to use them. You want to add more, grapeseed oils or olive oils, but we're going to an oily base. It just depends on what the use is.
And remember this, we're looking at as a product, as a dairy product too. So you want to pull away from as much dairy as possible. So there's the cheese and the milks and all those things, because those are the things that are very hard to digest along with the meat protein. So, if you're looking at really shifting into more of a healthy usage of any of them, you want to pull away from the dairy products, because those are products that create the mucus and the congestion that basically create a fertile ground for us to, catch colds and have disease and those kind of things.
Yep. Perfect. Another question is about different healthier alternatives to meat. So they were talking about grass-fed, responsibly sourced, like meat and fish, air fried. What are some of those alternative, healthier options to kind of that, like that? Somebody may just want to, I gotta have red meat. It's just like, so yeah.
So that's the healthier the better. So the grass-fed, the way our meats are processed now in the United States is why I believe that we have sometimes some issues with it, because these slaughterhouses that create stress in the meat, and then meat gets transferred to the people when they're healthy, grass-fed, free range,
Kobe beef.
Yeah, Kobe beef. I mean, you're talking a top quality product, and that's going to be able to work better with our human system. If you're just buying it right off the shelf in some of these places that we don't know how it's been processed, how it's been fed, whether or not it was confined in these closed, dark spaces, even some of the healthy fishes, like if they're farm raised and they're in these cluttered spaces, right? Farm raised fish can be, just as bad as fresh. But then you look at a freshwater fish, it's susceptible to having mercury in it, so there are a whole bunch of things that you have to be concerned about. But if in moderation, and if you're working towards elimination, so the thing is to find alternatives to satiate your brain that the meat or the fish product does for you, is what the goal should be for you.
Perfect. And I know, what you're saying is thinking it through as well, because there's so many things to be conscious and aware of. And sometimes, people make a mistake here or there, and it's, well, forget it. I'm not going to pay. It's too much to kind of wrap my mind around all of that. And that's kind of the easy way out. So we don't want people to take that easy way out. Just continue to educate yourself, continue to know what your body, as coaches, and you better mention what does your body need, want, and making the right choices from that point. But educate yourself. I know one of the questions somebody had was about water. Is there such thing as too much water? And I know too much of anything is a bad thing.
Yeah.
But even with water, is there such a thing as you can drink too much water?
Definitely. You can drink too much water. A lot of times when I'm going to, and I'm going to just be plain with it. So if you're drinking a lot of water, and when you're going to the restroom and your water's, the urine is coming out of you is completely clear. All right. where it's like almost looks like clear water, a lot of times you've already drank too much water where you've removed the nutrients from your body system, meaning you're now lowering the amount of nutrients the body has to, to use for other things. So what you want to do when you're drinking your water is this. The first water that you drink in the morning is, to me, the most important, because after you've gone through your fast, that means you slept and you wake up, the acid that's in your stomach at that moment is, when you drink water with that, it is now going to continue to help the body to detox what the body has done during its rest. So those 12 to 16 ounces as soon as you awake are so important. Now, if you want to add some lemon to that water, okay, or a little bit of apple cider vinegar, or even a little bit of cayenne pepper to that when you drink it, it is not only going to help the stomach detox the rest of that acid out, it's going to also trigger metabolism, meaning you eliminate, the body then asks. So now you can sip water throughout your day and the body's going to be more receptive to it. But if you get to the point where you're drinking water and you're drinking water and 3 minutes later you're going to the bathroom, most likely the body's not absorbing it. There are some other ways to get that. That's when you eat more cucumber, or put cucumber in your water, or put lemon in your water, put a little mint in your water. The body then recognizes that liquid as a food and it absorbs it better instead of just flat water where it's not receiving it. That means the body most likely is slightly dehydrated. So you want to now trick it by giving it something that's fibrous. That's why eating fruits are so important, because they're mainly full of water, and especially melons. That's why I said, if you eat melons, eat them by themselves and watch how well you feel.
Perfect. Well, we have come to the end of the session. Giving Coach and Yvette, the floor, any kind of last few words before we wrap it up here. And I know the last question that's in the chat actually talks about how you find out more about Soul Steppers. So I'm going to drop the link to Soul Steppers in the chat, but also there is a private Facebook group on Facebook where you can join the group to also get information that we share periodically about Soul Steppers in the group. So you can always go to Facebook, type in LA Soul Steppers Walking Group, and then you have to request to join the group. When you hit request to join, there are 3 questions you got to answer. So make sure you answer those 3 questions and you become a member right away. If you don't, then you're going to get a message from me. But yeah, Coach and Yvette, any last words?
No, just thank you. And Earth Balance was the soy. They have several versions. They have a soy-free version, which we found to be sort of the closest to a buttery taste and texture for whoever had asked that question. But thank you, and everything in moderation. And most things in moderation.
That's right. I want to say thank you. And I want you to know that, like, what we did today is just this umbrella shot. I really would, really hope that all of you just dive deep into this, because this is really something that can be life-changing, not only for yourself, but for your families. Just to go in and really study what nutrition is, understand the foods that we eat, how they affect us, and know that everything nutritionally is what you take in. So not only just food, be mindful of the shows you watch, be mindful of the conversations you have, the things you read. That's all nutrition, and it affects the energy that you are. So if you have all of this stuck energy that's not being able to be processed, that's what creates the imbalance and, the lack of health. And what we want, our goal is optimal health. That means positive energy towards our mindset, towards our physical body, our spiritual selves, and emotional selves. So family, I want to say thank you. Keep pursuing this life of optimal health. And we are always in support. So reach out if you need some support from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Yvette. And with that, we are going to wrap up this workshop. We hopefully you got some good information out of it. Also, as Coach and Yvette have said throughout, I'm gonna refer back to something that we all. I'm gonna use some liberty to say that we all grew up on Schoolhouse Rock. There was one of those Schoolhouse Rocks that said, "You are what you eat, from your head down to your feet." So all of that stuff is so important. You just keep that in mind as we make these choices during these holidays. I know we didn't get to the question that someone had about how do you talk to somebody who's making the food, the hostess, who believes in the fact that, you eat as much as you can. That's a conversation that may have to take time. Those conversations are not just one that you can have safely in a gathering, because most of the time everybody in the room is kind of has that same mindset because it's the holiday. But maybe throughout the year, periodically over some time, you can have those conversations with people to kind of bring everybody to a different level. So,
and Antoine, just for those people who are in those situations, remember this: don't feel pressured by choosing your best self. So if you're making a decision based on your best self and your well-being, that's what you do. And I would promote that. So, sometimes you got to say it, just do it.
Yeah, lead by example.
Lead by example, exactly. All right, Coach and Yvette, thank you again. And thank you everybody for joining us. Again, YouTube, AARP California, as well as the LA Soul Steppers Walking Group on Facebook will have the recording in it, so you can listen and watch at any time leading up. And for those folks who may have that conversation, you can show them the workshop. It's possible to do, and all they may need to do is have a little bit of motivation and help. So again, thank you all this morning. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you all who are Soul Steppers on the 21st at the mall, 8 a.m. All right, everybody. Thank you.